you are busy? Well, a few of you. I actually heard that coming up the stairs, talking to James. Have you been? I've been here a few weeks. I've been busy. You too, real busy, yeah. Seems like we're all so busy. How many of you would like to be a little less busy? So I find that we're all so very busy. And I like to say in this day and age, but it's really the only day and age I know. But all I know is that from moment to moment, from day to day, from kids to work, I'm really, really busy. And I find that I'm not so dissimilar to people that I meet. Today I'd like to share with you some ways that through my life I've learned to be a little less busy and a lot more quiet. And I'm going to share with you some ways that maybe you can do the same. My name is Vicki Scott, and I've been a teacher in the Kamloops District for over 20 years. During that time, I've discovered mindfulness training. I've worked with University of British Columbia and a company called Mindfulness Every Day to do some MBSR training, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction training. And the particular course that I was trained in is called SMART. It's called SMART is an acronym for Stress Management and Resiliency Strategies. And I've been teaching, I'm one of only a couple of educators in the interior of BC who've been teaching teachers specifically, but also other helping professionals, how to apply mindfulness to their lives and how to practice meditation. Today I'm hoping to leave you with a few tips. Have you ever looked at a photograph from an old album and saw a picture of yourself and wondered, what was I thinking in that picture? I recently was flipping through some old albums and I found a picture of me with my little boy. He's not so little anymore, but in the picture, he was about this tall. It was his 5th birthday. And he was standing shirtless on our deck with a giant, oversized, red, sparkly clown tie that had been put upon his head by Uncle Chris the Clown, who we had invited to the party. I was leaning over his shoulder, and he was looking up at Uncle Chris, and he had a beaming, toothless smile on his face. The picture made me feel a little sad, because when I looked at the picture, I realized all that years later that that lady in that picture really wasn't there. I mean, sure, I was there in body and I'd made the cake and I paid the clown, but in reality, my mind wasn't present in that moment. And when I looked at that picture, I realized it. See, I had just a normal life, 2 kids, a husband, a family, a job. Typical, nothing really special about me. But I found myself running from grocery store to daycare pickup, to parent-teacher conferences, back to work, home again, trying to fit in my training, because it was really important at that time that I was also not just a really good teacher and a really good mom, but a really good wife and a really fit one too. So I had put all these pressures on myself to be really, really special. I ended up being really, really special, right? What happened to me, and this is the vulnerable piece, is that all that busyness left me in a place of nothing. Over the years, I actually had led myself or worked myself into a place where I was now in a full state of hyperanxiety. I was dizzy. The floor would move. My desk at work was becoming what used to be organized, was becoming this massive pile of disorganized mess. I was short with my students, I was short with my kids, I was extremely short with my husband. I would forget my words. I would forget where I was going. I actually got to the point, and I'm not shy to say, but it doesn't make me proud, but I did get to the point where depression and anxiety was so hard for me that I almost didn't survive it. So that got to the point where I had to leave my work. And I spent many months on my couch, not even able to read a book, because that's what anxiety and depression does. It affects the brain. It's a mental illness, and it makes it so that things don't work the way that they are supposed to. So my kids lost their mom for a period of time. My husband lost his wife and his friend, and I lost myself. I got myself back up on my feet and was starting to feel a little bit better after several long months. And I sought out a counselor. And that counselor sat me down one day, and he was saying to me, "Tell me about your life. What's so special about how busy you are?" "I am so busy," I said to him. "You have no idea how busy I am, or how busy I was." No, for me it was different. I was extra busy. See, I still thought that I had been special. I still thought there was something about the way I lived my life, or the things that I was trying to achieve in my life that made me special. And that I was more busy than everyone else was, because look at me, I broke. And if in fact I broke, I must have been doing something extra. I've since changed my thinking. However, at the time, he was trying to ask me what was I doing that was so chaotic and making my life so crazy. And I just couldn't seem to convince him how busy I was. He said to me during one session, and this was probably for me a poignant moment, a turning point. He said to me, "Vicki, in your busy life, have you ever stopped just to enjoy cutting the carrots?" And I thought, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I left that session thinking maybe I shouldn't go back to this guy. However, over time, the absurdity of that message sunk in. One day I found myself cutting carrots. And I was doing it. And I was kind of enjoying the sound of the carrot, the texture of the knife. And I thought, okay, maybe this is kind of what he meant. And from that moment forward, I began to implement little tiny pieces of mindfulness into my day. So if I could enjoy cutting carrots, I thought, I could also enjoy running into the drugstore to pick up the Tylenol. I could also enjoy having a shower. Maybe I could also enjoy washing the dishes. So for me, over time, slowly over time, I began to incorporate all these beautiful mindful moments into my life. And I noticed a shift in myself. I noticed a stillness I hadn't noticed before. And I noticed that I started to enjoy sensory experiences that I hadn't enjoyed before. I could enjoy the wind on my face. I could enjoy the grass on my feet. I could enjoy the smell of a flower. Things that I had kind of buzzed by in my former life on autopilot, I was now starting to appreciate. It sounds simplistic, it sounds cliche, but stopping to smell the flowers actually gives our minds a chance to stop and be present and grounded in the present moment. So my journey with mindfulness led me to meditation because, of course, taking moments of mindfulness were so pleasurable for me and were giving me such positive results. I stepped further and I started to spend more time in silence. I would sit in my room and close my door, and I would, an untrained person as I was, I would sit like I thought a Buddhist might on my bed, and my son would come in and say, "Mom?" But I continued to practice. And then I continued to find growth. I continued to find stillness, and I continued to find balance. And I continued to find joy. And so from there, I continued my own journey in training to become a practitioner who can also support others who want to learn the same practice. Because you see, meditation is a practice. When we talk about discipline, we're talking about doing something over and over again, so we become so used to it that it becomes second nature. Similarly, with the action, or the space between stress or action and reaction, is a practice or disciplined response. If something irritates us, we might get pissed off. If someone cuts us off in traffic, we might give them the finger. None of you here, I'm sure. But my husband does. I always throw him under the bus for that one. Action, reaction, stress, and response. It's a practice skill. So the more time we practice not responding or not reacting, the more time we practice finding stillness and allowing space, we're actually creating a discipline in our brains. And that discipline is called the practice. The practice doesn't have to be 45 to 50 minutes a day, which is what neuroscientists from University of Massachusetts who brought Buddhism over to the Western world 50 years ago, 47 actually, that's the way they practice. But it doesn't have to be like that. We don't have to practice for an hour a day to have the effects or the benefits of meditation. 5 to 10 minutes a day of finding stillness can give you massive benefits. It can change your life. And I can tell you that for sure. So I'd like to share with you now, before I finish, a few practices, a few takeaways that you can take with you today, a toolkit, if you will, that you can bring with you so that if you're finding yourself in a place where you're feeling busy, settle down a bit. You can maybe try one of these tools that I'm going to share with you, and maybe it'll help you. So, I invite you to participate with me. I'm going to share 4 little tools with you. The first one is called the pause. So just sitting where you are right now, you don't have to find a mudra, you don't have to cross your legs, but if you just, for a second, just notice how your bum feels in your chair, how your feet feel on the floor. Let your shoulders fall away from your ears, and if you feel like you want to close your eyes, go ahead, you don't have to. But just for a minute, just notice your breathing. Don't change it, don't force it. Just notice that air goes in and air comes out. And that right here and right now in this moment is all that there is. Notice the breeze of the air conditioner, the sound of the fan. Notice if your mouth is dry or moist. Just take a moment to pause. And then come back to the group. And that's all it is. A pause is just that. It's just a pause. And it can be done anywhere. It can be done stopping at a traffic light. It can be done in an important meeting. No one needs to know you're doing it. So that's my first little takeaway for you. Put that in your little backpack. Second takeaway is called mindful minutes or mindful moments. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Right now, everyone just notice 5 things you can see. Just have a look around the room. What are 5 things you can see? It could be 5 colors, it could be 5 objects, it could be a combination of the two. What are 5 things that you can see? What are 4 things you can touch? Because our sense of touch is incredibly mindful and sends all kinds of receptors to the brain. So it might be something nearby, it might be something that's cool, it might be something that's smooth, it might be your hair. Find 4 things that you can touch. It might be the metal of your chair. But this is a grounding activity, and this actually activates our prefrontal cortex. So if we're busy in our amygdala, making up all kinds of stories in that lizard brain that Kylie talked to us about, if we're creating all kinds of narratives back here and bullshit, sometimes activating our prefrontal cortex can just bring it back to our thinking brain. Go, hey, right? So that's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. Now that fan went off, so that took one away from us, but just everyone just sit for a moment. 3 things you can hear. Thank you. 2 things you can smell. 2 things you can smell, and this one can be tricky, but this is, you see sometimes people that wear these essential oil necklaces or on their wrists so that they can get a nice dose of an essential oil to calm them. It might be that you're stopping to smell a flower, quite literally, right? It might be something not so good, but notice, can I smell? I have this great sense of smell. Can I use it? And yeah, I can use it, and I can use it to calm myself by activating my prefrontal cortex. And the last one is 1 thing, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 thing that you can taste. And it might be the coffee you're drinking, like that first sip in the morning. Or it might be the fact that you had garlic and you wake up and you're like, yeah, I taste that, right? But something you can taste, again, just bringing an awareness to a moment. Again, something you can do privately. Something you can do with your kids for that matter. But it's something that you can do that's another tool that you can take with you in your toolkit. The third of the 4 is the 4-7-8 breathing. And the 4-7-8 breathing, and I am going to invite you to join me with this one. It's simply a breathing pattern, and there are many. If you were to Google breathing patterns for meditation, you'll find many. But this one I like a lot because you'll see, we'll talk about it afterwards. So the 4-7-8 breathing goes like this. We're just going to count to 4 and breathe in. We're going to count to 7 and hold. And we're going to count to 8 and breathe out. Now, depending on how much oxygen you have in your blood right now, your breath and also how big your lungs are, your breath is going to be different from mine and yours from each other. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and do that on your own count, knowing that if the 7 feels too long, you're holding your breath in, and 7 feels too long, just count faster, right? You can control that. Okay, so go ahead and do it on your own. I'm going to do, you can go with me, or you can do on your own. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and release 8. Try it one more time. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you don't have to listen to my count, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and out. For a count of 8. I particularly like the 4-7-8 breath because it really calms me very fast. And it gives us that empty feeling in the abdomen. There's actually a connection. We've got the vagal nerve down here in our core, and that deep breathing and that sensation of emptiness really activates that vagal nerve and creates our whole nervous system, which is like spaghetti, right, that runs from tip to toe. It actually neutralizes that entire system. So I really like that one. The last one I'm going to share with you is called loving kindness. And loving kindness is a Buddhist practice. It's practiced routinely in mindfulness-based stress reduction therapy. And it is based in the idea that when we're feeling stressed or panicky or unwell or unsafe, that we can always go back to our core. And in some cases, our core is our breath. In some cases, we can go back to that sensory stimulation. And in this case, we can go back just to loving kindness. And sometimes that might just be saying to yourself, I got this. Sometimes it might be, and for me, my mantra I don't mind sharing with you is when I'm feeling particularly stressed or there's something that's going on that feels out of my control, I say to myself, all is well. And those words, those 3 words, for some reason, just give me a sense of calm and remind me that it's okay. I can be cognitive about what's happening, right? Mindful kindness touch or self-compassion touch is also something that people in our society are super foreign with, I find, right? We're not a real touchy, especially with self-touch, like it seems weird, but like, you know, if you feel courageous enough to right now just put your hand on your own heart, you don't have to if you don't want to do it, that's totally fine, but just putting your hand on your own heart and just feeling that's you right there and just being like, it's okay, right? We do it with kids all the time, right? Think of your own kids, you rub their back, you rub their chest, right? Maybe their tummy, like whatever's upsetting you. So that self-soothing, mindful compassion, self-compassion can be a really powerful tool to use with your own self. All right. So there they are. And so my wish for you as I finish up today is that you can take some of these tools and apply them day to day or to try them, to play with them. And if they don't work for you, maybe try something else that might work for you when you're feeling you're getting into that place. And notice now that, you know, even though the pepper that's sitting in that glass is still murky, if you look really closely, you can see that the sediment has floated to the bottom through the stillness of the last 10 minutes or so. And that through more stillness, you know, as we introduce the practice into our life day after day, just a few moments every day, things do become more settled, things do become more clear, and things do become more quiet.